What's the difference between a hard disk and a tape as storage devices? Give me one difference between disks and tapes, or hard disks and tapes.
This is direct access.
A what?
Direct access.
Direct access. So hard disks are direct access storage devices. What about tapes? Tapes are sequential access. That means they go through a sequence of records along the tape. They go along the tape and read. They cannot jump ahead or behind. But with a hard disk, you can go anywhere. Jump back, go forward, read that directly. That's why they call it direct access storage device, DASD. Which one is better, direct access or sequential? Why? Why is hard disk better than a tape?
It's faster. It's much faster.
Faster at what? Reading?
At the sense of time.
Because it's direct access, it can go to any record directly. And it takes almost the same length of time with very little difference, whether it's at the start or the end of the hard disk. With a tape, there's a big difference between reading some records. If you want the next record in front of the tape, it will be fast. If it's the last record in the tape, it will be so slow. So there is a difference in the length of time when reading or writing to or from a tape. With a hard disk, the difference is much, much smaller. We call that the difference in delays. Do you know what name they call it? Huh? Variance. I wasn't asking him, I was asking him, but it's okay. But thank you. Variance. So if you're asked what's variance, what would you tell me? What's variance? Variance? The difference in delay. It can be big variance, that means there are big differences. We don't like big differences. If you have a system that reads a file once, reads a record, it can take half a second, and read another record can take 3 minutes. That's not good. So what's variance again? What's meant by variance? What's your name?
Hassan. Hassan.
Hassan. Okay, Hassan. What's variance?
Variance, I don't understand.
Is the differences in delays, in time it takes to do something. If you want to do it 100 times, it might, for example, you want to do something 100 times. It might take you 1 minute to do it. Or 1 minute and 2 seconds, 58 seconds, close to a minute. Very little differences. So we can plan with that, we can live with that and organize for it. But if you want to do it 100 times, once it takes you a minute, another time it takes you 14 minutes, another time takes you 30 seconds, another time takes you 100 minutes, then that's big variance. There's the difference, each time we are doing the same thing, there can be a big difference, and that cannot be used, cannot be depended on in interactive systems. That's bad for interactive systems. Interactive systems, they want quick response all the time. If we have big variance, that means we can give quick response few times, and then it's going to be long response. We cannot really guarantee good response all the time. But with hard disk, the variance is so small. It's reasonably fast and also with very little variance. So anything that increases variance is not a good technique in general. All right, we started looking at devices. So we're gonna okay, the attendance is on. Make sure you switch you'll log into the attendance. And if your attendance doesn't work, let me know. At 1:45. Where's the clock?
Less.
Okay. What's a cylinder? Last time we talked about tracks and cylinders. So what's a cylinder? Any answers? Any takers? Did I hear something here?
A stack of discs.
No, that's a pack, a disc pack. What's a cylinder?
With the same
Yeah.
with the same track number in every
On every platter or every surface.
Yeah.
A cylinder is the tracks. Do you remember? Well, if there's a pack, this is a pack of discs. It has a number of discs, and every disc we can write on both sides of the disc, each one of those. And each one of the discs has tracks, and tracks are numbered from 0 to maximum. Which one is track 0? Is it the one on the outside or on the near the center? Track 0. Pardon? Outside. So track 0 always starts on the outside. So on these tracks here, there's track 0, 1, 2, 3. Track is a circle. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to maybe number 1,000. Right? So 0 is the track on the outside. And we have tracks on this side of this disc and underneath it. Same number of tracks. And also on this disc and underneath it. On each disc in the pack. And all the tracks here are numbered 0, 1, 2, 3. Same here, 0, 1, 2, 3. And also on the opposite side. And when the heads are reading, they move together. They move to track number 10. So there'll be one head on this track number 10 and another head on the underneath part. And one head here and one head there. So all the heads go to track number 10. And all tracks number 10, we call them cylinder number 10. Okay, so what's the cylinder? It's all the tracks that have the same number. They're called the cylinder. So if I say cylinder 30, I mean track number 30 here and 30 there and 30 on each surface. What's so special about a cylinder? Anybody knows what's so special? That if you put all the heads, if you move them, if you want to read a file that's written on this track, and part of it is written on this also same track on each surface, when I first move the heads to on top of that track, and I read the first one, I can immediately read the other one. I don't have to move the heads again because they're all sitting on the same track. So it reduces the movements of the heads. What do we call the movement of a head? If I want to read, say, from track number 200, I have to move the head to track 200. That movement takes a bit of time. What do we call that? Anybody remembers? It's not turn, it's not rotation time. What is it called? Seek time, is it? Seek time. Seek. Very close. I'd accept it. I take it in an exam. I say, oh, the student just misspelled. But it's called seek time. S-E-E-K. Right? So anytime you move it, if the head was here at track number 10 and was to go to 400, it has to jump. That length of time, this is a very long time. It's not a short time. As part, when you want to read or write from a hard disk, it goes through 3 steps. First, we call it access time. You can ask, what's the access time? It's actually stamped on every hard disk. When you buy a hard, when you go to the shop and buy a hard disk, you'll find access time. That's how long it will take to read from a hard disk. And access time is the length of time it takes to read a record, on average, of course. They try near track, far track, and all that, and they get to give you the average. But it's important. If you get an option, which hard disk, I give you 2 hard disks and say pick one of them. Look at the one that has higher, faster time, access time. So access time is really the length of time it takes to read or write onto a hard disk. And what does it consist of? It consists of 3 parts. The first part is seek. So if the disk is sitting on top of 400 and you want to read from number 100, it has to move back to number 100. It takes a short time. It takes maybe half a second, a quarter of a second, or 1/10 of a second, or even 100th of a second, or even 1,000th of a second, depending on how far the track is. So that motor is pretty fast, that moves things around, but it's very precise as well. And the second part of the read, remember when you're reading, how much information do we read from a hard disk at any time? Anybody knows? If I want you to read a very large file, how much information is read at any given time? Any idea?
Depends on the hard disk.
Pardon?
Depends on the hard disk.
Okay, give me a general figure. How much information do we read? If the file is a video so large, we can't go read it all in one go. What do we read each time? A sector, a block. Guys, this is the unit of interacting with the hard disk. Anytime we read a block or a sector. Anytime we write a block or a sector. Always. Anytime you say, I want to create a new file, give me space on the hard disk. Guess how much you will get? 1 sector, 1 block. Remember this is important. It's like when you go to do some shopping, you never go for a bottle of milk or bread. There's always a set, long list you get it. Anytime you go there, you always have to get that. So you don't have to go many times. That's the reason why. So operating system doesn't, not every time you want to read something, it has to go. If you ask it to read a small thing, it will go and get a big thing and bring it over. In the hope that you'll ask for the next item, so we don't have to go back. Sometimes you don't ask, and it's okay. But it doesn't cost us any money. It's just like going to a shop. The big delay is walking up all the way and walking back. It's not paying. Paying is so easy. Or keeping the stuff there. Okay, think of it this way. Anytime you go to the shop, it takes a long time to go. So we might as well bring more things and put them here just in case we need them. That's exactly what happens with the operating system when a user or a program say, read me a record. I don't read 50 records and bring it. Why? Because it takes so long to get there and so long to go back. So when I go, I might as well bring as much as I can. It doesn't cost any more time to read the entire block rather than to read 2 bytes. It's the same length of, almost same length of time. Okay, so let's get to that point there. These are the 3 steps that happen every time we read. First, we need to move the head to the required place or where that sector is. Remember, the sector is on a track, and the track is divided into sections. We call them sectors. We're going to pick one of those sectors. So let's say this is the sector you want to pick. It's on track number whatever, 300. So first thing, move the head to track 300. Remember, this is spinning like mad. This is really rotating. How fast does it rotate at? Thank you. 15,000 RPM. Is that what you said? No. Okay, so it's 15,000. The newer ones. Most of the older ones, they were 7,500, or give or take. But so it's spinning pretty fast, very fast. But we first have to bring the head to the right track. That's called seek time. That takes a bit of time. That's the longest time in the read. That's like if you want to go and buy something from a shop, it'll take you 10 minutes to walk up and back, walking. That's the longest time. When you get to the shop, you just pick the bottle of milk and pay for it. It takes very short time. Same with reading or writing onto the hard disk or from the hard disk. So, first, the time is called seek time. Once we move it there, now the rest of it is a bit of luck. But it's going to be very short time anyway. This sector could be right here, spinning. Just a moment, you bring the head, it goes under the head. So that took very little time. Sometimes the worst time, if we bring the head gets here, the sector is just going past the head. You have to wait for it to go for a full circle. But it doesn't matter, that full circle is so short because this thing spins at 15,000 revolutions per minute. But nevertheless, that's called rotation time. And some other people call it location time, so we'll see what else it's called. But it's rotation. So the length of time it takes for the, what's that? That's the length of time to take from the moment the head gets to the correct track until that sector comes under the head. That's that length of time. That's very short time. But still, that's part time of access time. What do we mean by access time? What's access time for a hard disk? Anybody? It's the total time it takes to read or write from a hard disk. And it consists of 3 times. So if you are asked in an exam, what's access time? It takes those 3 times. 1, the seek time. 2, the rotation time. 3, the transfer time. Once that sector comes under the head, it's just the moment it goes underneath it, we pick the information. And that's the shortest time. It's called transfer time. So these are the 3 times. Seek time, rotation time, transfer time. The 3 of them make up something called access time. Read or write time. Okay, so it's access time. So what's access time? What does access time consist of? Fantastic. Seek time, plus rotation time, plus transfer time. Which one is the longest and which one is the shortest of those 3? Which one is the longest? Seek time or rotation time or transfer time? In fact, seek time is the longest. That's the one that takes, longer time. The longer time is a couple of thousandths of a second. These ones take even less than that. And this one, transfer time is even the fastest. It takes almost no time at all, but it does. All right. So, what we're going to do, guys, if we have a lot of requests the server would be running maybe 20 or 30 or 50 apps, and some of them will want to read, some of them want to write. So they send requests to the device manager. This is the device manager that we're looking at. Now this guy has lots of requests, and we're going to find out what's the best way what's the best technique to use to do all these requests at the shortest time or the quickest time. Just like we did with allocation of the CPU to processes. If you have 20 processes, they want the CPU. Remember? So we said we used to do the easiest way, so always do first come, first serve. But sometimes one of the ones who come in, they want the CPU for a very long time. They delay everybody. So we went for the shortest processing job or the shortest cycle first. So we can get the shorter jobs first, and we get the best performance. But that's of course difficult to find out how long each process needs the CPU for each time, each cycle. It's not easy to calculate. If we knew it, it would be the best performance. Same here. We can do first come, first serve. Anybody that says read, we just put them in a queue and do them one at a time. That's always the easiest way to do, to program, to implement. First come, first serve is always the easiest. Why? It's so easy to have a queue and put the request in one end, we take them from the other end. That's called a queue. Easy to program. But it doesn't always give good performance, and we'll see even in this one here. But there is also, the next one is the shortest seek. Remember, the seek is going from wherever you are now to wherever you want, the track that we want to read from. So if I'm here now at track 50, and I have two other requests, one at track 70, so I have to go 20, or 700. Which one is the nearest? The shortest seek time is the one nearest to you. That will take less tracks to jump to go to. So that's the nearest. There are other policies or strategies that we'll look at. So let's start looking at that. This is something you might get in an exam. You say, can you find out the average seek time? Why are we looking at seek time? Because seek time is the longest time in the read. Anytime you want to read, what's access time again? We call it access time. What's access time? Yes, and it consists of 3 steps or 3 times. What are they?
This rotation.
Let's start with the longest one. Seek time, moving the head. And then rotation, when the disk rotates on this, and the sector comes under the head, and finally, transfer time. So there are 3 times. Can you repeat them? You know what they are? Access time.
Yeah, seek time, and rotational latency,
And transfer. You need to remember those guys. Reading or writing. That refers to the access time. If you're asked what's access time, it's the time it takes to read overall. But it consists, you need to remember that it consists of 3 times. Seek, rotation, and transfer. And do attendance. Those who just came in, make sure you do your attendance. It's running. Right. So now, this is the kind of questions that you might get. If we say there are a number of processes running, and they have put in the following requests, and each one of them wants to read some information from a file. All right, but let's say they want to read. One, we are able to know which blocks they're going to be reading. So the first request wants to read from track number 4, track 40, track 11, track 35. Remember, in order to read, the device manager needs to know 3 numbers at least, or 4 numbers. And you know, in order to be able to read a particular piece of data. Do you know what these numbers are? Where this data is on the hard disk. How is it identified? How is addressing happens on a hard disk? How do you know where that file is? The what?
Number of the sector?
Sector. The sector number. Is it? Yeah. Well, before the sector number. Okay. Here's a hard disk. So just let me go bring a hard disk just to see what a hard disk is like. Come on. There. Let's say all this stuff here. It's easier. This is a bigger picture. Right. Where is that file? Let's say the file is there on this diskette here, in there, at around somewhere, around the location here, but on this diskette. What address would that have? How would the device manager know where it is? How would you think you'd know? If you tell me your file is there at this location, how would you tell me? Anybody? Track number. So track number is one thing. Let's say track number 200, right? So in there, there's a track. Where is track number 0? Newcomers. Where is track number 0? Is it on the outside track or the inside track? Any idea? Peter. The outside track is track number 0. So remember, there are lots of circles here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to maybe number 1,000, maybe 4,000 tracks. And what's important about track? Information is written on the track. Tracks are like the lines on a book. Oh, sorry. A notebook like this. See this notebook? These lines here, that's for you to write on. They are like, on computer, they are like tracks on a hard disk. So that's where we write information. You can't see them because we write magnetically. Remember, a hard disk, this surface here can be metal, and it's covered with a lot of iron material that can be magnetized. So you just put a magnetic charge. There's no change in color. You don't see the writing. But if you bring a coil and pass it beside it, it will get electricity flowing through it because there's magnetic field. Remember, electricity and magnetism, they always work together. If you have electricity flowing, it will generate magnetic around it, magnetic field. And if you have a magnetic field, we put magnetic field charges on the surface. If we bring a coil, a wire, and pass it beside it, that magnetism will generate current. That's how we read. Generate electric current. So electricity and magnetism, we use them for writing or reading. If we're going to write, we send electric current based on ones and zeros, high current, low current. When it gets to the coil, it will generate big magnetic field or small magnetic field. The iron there gets magnetized. That's why, guys, never bring in a magnet beside your hard disk, outside your hard disk. It will wipe everything off. So don't, keep your laptop, if you have a hard disk in it, away from magnets. Anyway, let's get to the address bit. Anytime, if you have a file that lives on this hard disk, how do we have the addresses? In a city, you need to know the street number, you need to know the area, and the street name, and then wherever that house is. So same on a hard disk. When you look at this pack, first thing you need to know which of these it's on. Which of the disks. Not just the disk, which surface. Is it this surface or that surface? That surface. How do we know that? How do we know if it's on this, if it was on 1, 2, 3, the third surface on the top part of it? How would we identify that? Surfaces are numbered on every hard disk. Numbered from 0. This top surface is always 0. That's number 1. That's number 2. That's number 3. Number 4. So if it's sitting there, it's track face or surface. They call it platter or surface. Number 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, on this surface, now imagine I'm looking at number 4, but there it is. It will have track 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way. I need to find out which track could be track number 200. That's the next place. That's like your street in a city. First, in a city, we know we are in, say, Dublin 9 or Dublin 12 or Dublin wherever. That's the area. That's which one you're living on. And now the street, that's like the track number. And now the track is divided into smaller units. What are they called? Sectors. And the sectors are numbered 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So wherever your sector is. And that's the sector that the operating system is going to read. All right. So once it knows that, first thing, it moves the head to that cylinder. What do we mean by a cylinder? What's a cylinder? What's a cylinder on a hard disk? What's a track on a hard disk? Yeah, what's a cylinder? You know, on a hard disk? Pardon? Yeah, close. Yeah. What's a cylinder? Okay. All the tracks that share the same number. Remember, you have track 0 here. You also have track 0 on the lower surface. Also, on this one has track 0. So every one of these surfaces have tracks number 0, 1, 2, 3. If you go to number 10 on this one, the head will also go to number 10 on the bottom one on the 10 here. So all the tracks that share the same number, we call them a cylinder. So if I say go to cylinder 10, it's like I say go to track 10. But we know there's more than one surface. There may be 8 or 16 surfaces, and all the heads, they go together to the same track. Okay, so the heads, they move together. This here, that head, and that head, and that head, all the heads. When this one goes to 200, they're all sitting on track 200 on every surface. What we call that cylinder. And it's nice, it's good to remember. So if I write my file, one file, I write it on track 200 here, but it's not enough. I write the rest of it on the other one 200. And the next, all tracks number 200, I use them for the same file. That means when I move the hard disk to 200, that's called seek time, and read all that track here on the side, they don't have to move to read the one underneath it. They're already on track 200. But if I give you a big file, and this was a question in one of the exams, you have a large file to store. Is it better? You need 10 or 8 tracks. You put them here on the same surface, or is it better to put them on different surfaces? The same track, but on different surfaces. Now, if you put them here, you find one free track here, you bring the head there, read it. Now you want to read the next track, you have to move another seek. This is slow movement. Well, this is the slowest thing. So it's not a good idea to have the head to read the same file go each time where the sector is. But if you put them all the sectors on the same track, on different purposes, on different faces, that's on the same cylinder, then when you move the head first, you put it there on track 200, and you read this part of the file, you want to read the other part underneath, it's also on 200, you don't have to move the head anymore. And movement of the head, that seek movement, is the slowest, so we tend to reduce it. So this is the question, or the way it is asked. Okay, we have the following requests to do the following reads on one hard disk. What's the average? Calculate the average seek time. Right. So how long? What's the time? On average, they say, let's assume every time we're only talking about the seek time, this part of the time, not the full read time. But every time the head moves from one track to the next track, it takes 1 millisecond, 1,000th of a second. So it moves that fast. So if it has to move 20 tracks from here to there, then it takes 20 thousandths of a second. It's a very short time, but still. So now, let's look at these. How long will these reads take? How many millionth or thousandths of a second it takes to read them all? And we divide it and we get the average time. So, we start. Whenever they give you number of reads, they always give you where the head is at the moment. Because it's important to know where, like you were reading something before and the head is sitting there. Now you have to go to another place. It depends where the head is. So in this example, they tell you, while retrieving this data, while reading all these, the head, or when we were retrieving or reading stuff from track 15, this list appeared, this list of requests. So when we do this list, we're starting it from this point, number 15. So the head is at track number 15. All right, so this is first come, first served policy. That means we're going to do them in this order. We're going to read 4, 40, 11, 35, 7, and 14. So we go to these different tracks. So now we're at track 15, and we need to move first to track number 4. So we move to track number 4, and we read the information there. How long did it take us to move from 15 to 4? Just find out how many tracks we have to cross. 15 minus 4 is 11. So that it takes us 11 thousandths of a second, 11 milliseconds. Okay. Now, we finished reading at number 4. What's the next one? 40. How long does it take us to move the head to 40? See, this jump, or even faster than this, but that can be, well, it probably took me a quarter of a second to do it, or half a second. But how long would it actually take the arm on the hard disk? It takes, we were at 4, we went to 40, 40 minus 4 is 36. So it took us 36 thousandths of a second. That's less than, 0.3% or so of a second. All right, 36 thousandths of a second. Right, and then when we finished reading at number 40, we had to go to number 11. So that's 40 minus 11, 29 milliseconds. And then from 11, we went to 35. So 35 minus 11, or 11 minus 35, 24. So if we find all the movements, number of tracks that had to be moved across, and then add them up all together, and we found that the head moved 135 tracks, or 135 milliseconds. All those requests. So, as you can see, all these requests, they don't even take 0.02 of a second. But we're trying to do it faster, so anyway, what's the average read? 135 divided by how many reads? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Divided by 6, it gives us 22.5 milliseconds. So on average, those requests took 22.5 milliseconds. Doing the first come, first served, which is the easiest one to do. There's no complications. We have a queue, every request goes into one side of the queue, we take it from the other. This is the same with CPU allocation, first come, first served, whichever process. And once you add them all up, divide them by the number of requests, you get the average. Now, let's try another strategy and see if there's a difference between them. So this one is called the shortest seek time first. Remember, with the CPU, we did first come, first serve, the shortest processing or the shortest running CPU process. But now here, this one is the nearest, basically. This is the nearest. So, what does this mean? Shortest seek. That means the seek is the movement of the head. You look for the shortest movement of the head. You pick the one that gives you the shortest and you go for it. What does it start? Right, it's the same question, but now we're using a different policy. We start at track 15. Now, track 15, which one of these would be the shortest? To go from 15 to 7, we need to move 8. To go to 35, we need to move 20. We're looking for the shortest. 15 to 11, that's 4. 15 to 40, that's 25 or something. 15 to 4, 11. 15 to 14, 1. We pick 14. That's the shortest seek time. That means wherever the head is, the shortest seek, the shortest movement. So we pick the request that will need the shortest movement of the head from the available ones. So we move the head from 15 to 14. It takes 1,000th of a second, read the information there. After that, now 14 is gone. And now we are at 14. Which one of these is nearest to 14? 4 or 40 or 11 or 35 or 7? Looks like 11 maybe, nearest to 14. So we move to 14. And you need to follow it up here. How many movements have we gone? From 14 to 11, you went 3 tracks. That's what we want. That's 3 milliseconds. After 11, where did you go? Which one of these? Okay, remember to remove the one you've already done. We've done 14 and 11. And now we are at location number 11. Which one is the nearest? 4, 40, 35, or 7? 7 is the nearest to 11. So 11 minus 7 is 4. And then you go from 7, which one you pick? 4 or 35 or 40 from 7. 4 is nearer, so we go to 4. And then 4, there are only 2 left, 35 and 40. Which one is the nearest? 35, so we go to 35. And each time you go from one to the next, you write how many tracks you have to go across. That's very simple, you just subtract the 2 numbers. The smaller from the bigger, and you get the number of tracks moved or the length of time spent. That's in thousandths of a second. So when you add them up, they come up to 47. Divide them by 6 to get the average. Now we get the average is 7 milliseconds. Doing exactly the same reads. We just change the order. The previous one, the average was 22 and a half. That's first come, first serve. Took 22 and a half milliseconds. With shortest seek time, it took 7 milliseconds, 7.8. So it's almost, you're reducing it by 66%. So we can save a lot of time. Okay, we only saved a lot of thousandths of a second, but still, remember, there are millions of reads in most computer centers. The servers are, the hard disks are really ticking all the time, reading. There's so many applications and programs around the world that come and ask for read requests. So it's better, we'll reduce the time, the delay. So it's reasonably easy. Once you know how it's done, you can follow it up. Now, in some other machine, of course, you need to know the advantage and disadvantage of each technique. Remember when we used to give the CPU to anybody who comes in, first come, first serve. What's the problem with that? Do you remember? Sometimes you get a process that needs the CPU for a long time, it delays everybody. And that gives us a long average, a big average. And when we organize them in the shortest job first, we get the best performance, the best average. Same here. This one, the shortest seek, gives us a much better, it has a lot better average, much lower average seek time, which is good for interactive jobs. But it has a problem. Anybody notice the problem with this? What's wrong with this technique? Even though it's really fast, it delivers at the best performance possible, the smallest average seek time. But can you see anything wrong with it? Does it delay anybody?
Yes.
Who? What?
For example, track 4.
Okay, yeah, I can see. For example, the 40 was the second to arrive, but as you can see, it was the last to be served. This technique, the shortest seek time, it always looks for the nearest. So it favors the neighbors. So if you're my neighbor, we'll pass it on to you. If you're not my neighbor, you could be starved. If while you are working here, we done 15, 14, 11, 7, and now more 16 arrived, and 12, and 3, and all, they'll be all the neighbors, they'll be getting, even if they arrive late, they'll be served much earlier, and the 40 can be sitting for a long time because it's remote. So even though it performs very well, gives us a very short average seek time, but it's not really fair. It can delay some processes extra length of time, which can cause starvation. Do you see the point? So every technique, what about the previous technique? The first come, first serve. What's the advantage and disadvantage? I'll make it easier for you. The advantage, it's easy to implement. It's the easiest to implement. First come, first serve. Because you only have use simple queue, no calculations. Anybody joins the queue, and it always takes from the other side of the queue. But what's wrong with it? It doesn't give a good performance. It doesn't give you the shortest average. Chica. I agree with you there, but you should be talking to us, not him. Right, the next technique. The next technique is called the scan. They said, listen, the head jumping left and right, maybe not a great idea. So what they did, somebody suggested a scan. Let's have the head going all the way from 0 to track 0 to maximum track, continuously. And every time there's a request along the way, let's stop, read it, and continue. I'll stop here again. When you reach the end, start moving back. There's another request here, move. There's another request. You get to 0, you will start moving back again. This is called scan. Full scan. From track 0 to the maximum track, and back to track 0, maximum track. And any request that comes in can be scheduled. Is that a good idea? Here's a scan. I'll show you the scan and see what you think of it. Any suggestions before we show it? Any predictions? What do you think? Is it good, bad? It should give good performance, or bad, or good for some and bad for some. Anyway, let's say we start. There's one request. The head just got there to the very 0 here. It's going to about start the scan to the maximum. There's already one request only. So it moves and goes to that request and starts serving it. While it's serving, 2 more requests came in. This request came in first, that request came in third, or next. So one of them came before the other. Is it going to serve the one who came first? Not necessarily. It will get the one that's it's going towards. So as you can see here, just something to notice, that it served request number 3 before request number 2, even though request number 2 arrived first. But it's okay, maybe it's not too bad. It will probably serve it next, right? Maybe, but while it's serving 3, another request came, number 4, came behind the head, just behind the head. Is this a lucky guy? It doesn't look like they're lucky. You have to wait until the head comes back. So now I've got to number 2. Now maybe while it's serving 2, there's another request came, number 5. See, number 5 arrived after 4. But who's going to get served? It's the lucky one. Just arrived, and the head is just, it's in front of the head. It will be served next. And while it's serving 5, more requests came along. So poor number 4 is still waiting. And we're still heading in this direction to the last track number 1000, and then turn back. We're going to be going back, and on the way back, we find the request number 6, we serve it, and then number 7, and number 4 is so poor, it's still waiting. Eventually, you think, okay, 4 is going to get its opportunity. No, another request arrived to read track number 400. This is request number 8. Still, it will be served before number 4. And then eventually number 4, and so on. We go to the end of the track. So this is called the scan. Anybody can, it's easy to implement. We have no problem, no calculations. We just keep going left and right, and all the time continuously serve any request that's there. Any problems? So the problem is, it has 2 problems there. One problem is so obvious. If it depends on where the head is when you arrive, when your request arrives. If you just miss the head, you can be waiting for a long time. The other thing, there's no priority as such. Not whoever arrived first. You could arrive as number 4, and many others arrive after you, and they get served before you, just because they are lucky enough. Their request or their data. And remember, still on a hard disk, there's very little difference between them. Like the what do you call if there is a large difference between them? The variance. That's variance. Variance is important. You say, anybody knows what do we mean? What does the term variance mean? No? Time? Differences in delay. To read a record, or in this case to serve a request. Like number 4, it might have taken maybe 50 milliseconds, while number 8 just came in, got served because it's so there is some variance. Even though generally on a hard disk it's not all that bad. It's going to be within maybe 25 milliseconds, maybe 100 milliseconds. That's very little time. A thousandth of a second is very short time. Not like tapes, but still, nevertheless, when we're talking at that speed, there are some who are going to get delayed a lot more than others. So it's not fair on that. But also, there's another part. See when we done track number 100, this request, or number 4, that one, request 1 was already served. The last one we served here is number 4, right? Let me go back to just one step back. Yeah, we're serving number 4. After 4, there is no request between 200 and 0. There are no more requests. But the scan will go all the way to 0. When we can see going back from 4 to 0, it's just a waste of time. There's no request, and you come back and there's no request. Well, that's a waste of time at the end. Similarly, if, for example, R5 was not there in this example, when it was heading in that direction, when the request was going in this direction, and we served number 2, imagine if request number 5 was not there. What do you think this will do, the scan? It will still go from 900 to 1000 and come back. It will waste 200 milliseconds at both ends. So they improved this in 2 ways. They created something called the scan with the look. What does that mean? It means every time you serve a request, like this one, for example. You serve number 3. Imagine there may be requests behind you, but maybe there's nobody in front of you. If there was nobody, what do you think the scan will do? It has to go all the way to the maximum and come back. And there might be a few behind it to serve if there was nobody there. So they said every time you serve, look ahead, look in front of you, and see, is there anybody waiting there? Let's say Artu is not there. No, there's nobody there. Well, then why do you go up that way? Turn around and serve the ones behind you. That's the look. The look, every time you serve them, let's say I'm told to clean all these tables that are dirty. I can see which one. There are 2 ways. I can do a scan. I just go clean, oh, this one doesn't need cleaning, this one, but I have to go all the way to the end. Or, if I find one that needs cleaning, I clean, and then I look. Anybody? Yeah, there's a table that needs cleaning, then I go. And then I clean, and then I look again. Okay, the rest of them are all clean. There's no need to go all the way there. Turn back and start moving in the opposite direction. This is the look. So we have a scan with the look. The look will save us from going all the way to the end and waste time. So that's called the scan with the look. Now that's one improvement of the scan, because the scan has wasted time at both ends. So that's solved by the look. Now, the scan had another problem. Let's say now in this example, let's follow this example. Now request number 4 arrived. Now, we should serve it reasonably quick. It's not fair if we keep serving others who arrive after it. But let's keep serving. We serve number 2. We serve number 5. In the way back, we started serving again more. So if we can cut down on the serving, then we might make things easier for number 4. So what they suggested, something called the circular scan. What does circular scan mean? Means when you're going, serve all the others, but coming back, serve nobody, just don't jump straight back. So that will improve requests for opportunities or chances of getting served. Okay? Still, some will be served before it, like 6 and 7 will get served first. No, not 6 and 7. Let me go back again. So let's look at this. Imagine this is a circular scan. So here's the circular scan. We're serving 3, 4 came, right? It's unlucky guy. Because number 2, we go and serve number 2, and 5 arrived after 4, we'll serve it. But from now, we should go back all the way, ignoring 6 and 7, and we only serve them in one direction. So if we can go back straight directly to number 0, that's good for 4, because it should be served before 6 and 7. So that's called the circular scan. So if you are asked to describe the circular scan, how do you describe it? You say, okay, the head is moving all the way from 0 to the maximum back to 0, but going to the maximum, it will satisfy or serve all the requests that are there. But coming back, it should not serve anybody. So anybody who arrives after the head will still be there, but they'll have to wait for only service happens in one direction only. It's like, again, I'm cleaning the tables, but every time I go, I run out of whatever material that needs to be used, so I have to go back. Even though they're dirty ones, but on the way back I don't touch them, and then I start again. Cleaning or serving only happens in one direction. Is this better? Yes, it will reduce the variance for this request. Anybody who arrives behind the head, they will not suffer too much like they did with the normal scan. So you know how the scan works, the basic one? You start at 0, you go to maximum. You go to maximum, you go back to 0 all the time, serving in both directions. That's called the scan. Scan with a look, you only serve in one direction. Going back, you just jump straight back. This is better, slightly better for those who arrive behind the head. They don't suffer too much variance. And what about the look? The look will always look. Are there any more in that direction? No? Well, then turn back. There's no point of wasting your time going all the way when there's nobody to serve. But we still, number 4, still can suffer when it arrives and the head is here. See, there's still a little bit of a problem if we can overcome that. This is the problem. The head is moving in that direction to the maximum, and number 4 arrived behind the head. That's unlucky. But another one will probably arrive. Number 2 was already there. Okay, we understand that. But number 5, look at number 5 just arrived. It should not be served before 4, ideally. So they started another one. They say, listen, the moment the head starts from the beginning, any request that's there, okay. They say we have a queue here. It has 3 requests, R1, 3, and 2. Let's have another queue. When we start moving, close that queue. Nobody should join that queue anymore. If another one arrives, from the moment the head starts moving, that's it, that queue is closed. We open another new queue. So if we keep moving, number 5 arrives, it has to go into the next queue. And we don't serve that until the next time we start the scan or start scanning. Okay? So we use multiple queues, 2 queues this time. Every time we start, we close that queue. It's like a bus coming to a bus stop. Anybody who is there will take them. Once the bus leaves, there's only one bus. Once it goes, anybody who comes in, they cannot join the bus. They have to wait until the bus goes all the way, come back, and then start the track again. And that way, we guarantee if somebody arrives behind the head, like number 4, if it arrives, it will join the second queue. It will be the first in the next slot. Once you get the logic, you can maybe explain it or understand it or follow it up. See, this technique with the multiple queue, if we have 2 queue, number 4 cannot join there. Number 4 should be in the next queue. It's the first in the next queue. And once it goes, number 5 also, and 6 and 7, they'll all join the next queue. They don't get served now. 5 wouldn't be served if we were doing multiple queues. It's just like you missed the bus or you missed the train. Wait for the next one. Wait for the same train or the same bus to go all the way back and then come back and pick us up. But in that way, number 4 will be served before number 5. Will not delay and we'll have to wait for 6 and 7 and all this. They'll all be on another queue. Right? You understand? So these are all the strategies that you need to know. You need to understand them. If you're asked to explain them, you can explain them. If you're asked to calculate, you need to be able to calculate, how far does the head travel, how many tracks does it go, and that's translated into delay or time. So, this technique is called the N-step scan. It holds all requests until the arm starts away again. It's called the N-step. That means we finished, you missed the run. Once the head goes, you cannot join the same track, join them in the next one. It's called the next, like another queue. The next step or the next scan you will be taken care of. So you have to join a different queue. This is multiple queues. So we have circular scan, C scan. It's known as C scan. And sometimes we have both circular and look. Circular, that means you serve in one direction, jump to the start. Go, Every time you go, you serve. You stop and serve. But coming back, you go straight there. And the look, that means every time you serve somebody, you look first. Are there more people out there to be served? More requests? Yeah, well, keep going. You get that request. Is there any more? No. Well, then don't go all the way to the end. Sure. That's what the look means. The look means every time you serve, it's like the bus driving and still has to drive 20 miles or 20 kilometers and just drop the last passenger there. Now, there are no more passengers for the next two stops. Well, then there's no point in going all the way to the end of the line. You can turn back, save time. That's what the look is. In the look, the arm does not move to the last track unless there's a request there. Okay, this is kind of just what they look like. This is like the circular scan. It goes and serves any request this way. And even if they request here, those two requests, it doesn't stop at them. It goes all the way, starts serving in this way, in one direction only. This is called circular scan. And you can calculate how much time does it take. And this one is the look. This is with the look. It goes and serves all these requests. And each time serve a request, is there another request there? Yeah, go and stop there. Is there another request? Yeah, let's go. Serves this one. Is there another request? Yeah. When you get there, you finish serving it. Is there another request? No. Well then, don't go. Turn back. It's circular. Then let's go back all the way and start serving again. So these are the different techniques of reading. You might come up with another technique and it might give better performance. But all those, they were developed to reduce variance, to give better opportunity, to remove the wasted time there at the end of going, and reduce the average seek time. So this one tells you what's good or bad about each one of them. Scan works well with light to moderate loads and eliminates problem of indefinite postponement. See, the scan is better than the shortest seek. Remember, the shortest seek favors the neighbors. If there's another one up there to be served, but their neighbors will serve them first, we stay here and serve them. But with the scan, no, it clears that problem. I'm gonna go scan, you're not gonna starve. Scanning is so good because it eliminates starvation. Everybody will get their turn within reasonable time, depending on how busy they are. Okay, I want to show you so rotation time is also can be improved, but you don't have to worry about it. Right? I'm just going to show you how it can be improved, but you don't have to study it. Well, you can if you want, but there will be no questions on this part. Scheduling the rotation time, improving rotation time. Imagine now there are two files to be read. Which one would you read first? Based on the sector numbers. You read the one in number 13 or one number 11? First, you need to know one thing. The head cannot read one and then immediately read another one on a different head, on a different track. It takes a bit of time to move from, so by the time it moves from here to there to read there, that will go a little bit past it. So it cannot read right from the start. So you cannot read, say, from sector number 2 and then the next one sector number 3, or 3 and 2 immediately. You have to give it an opportunity. So if you read from 6 and 4, that's okay. You can have a bit of time to move the head. So there has to be at least a gap of one number, one sector, to allow for the head to move. Right, so now we have two sectors to read, or two files, the red and the green. The question is it better to read the red, or is it better to read the green? The red first and then the green, or the green first and then the red? Any ideas? It's rotating in the same direction as well. Anybody want to have a go? Which one is better? You don't have to explain. Just pick a color. Is it going to be the red first and then the green is better? Or is it the green first and then the red is better? Okay. Let's see how it goes. If we read the red first, the head will come here before this sector come down here and line itself with the sector and then read the red. Now, it has enough time to move. If this file here, it wouldn't be able to read it. It won't have time. By the time it moved down here, it would have gone past it. But now it has enough time to move down to this one, and the green will go under the head that can be red. So it can read the red followed by a movement towards the green, and then read the green in maybe a quarter of a turn. If we move it down here to read the green first, when it finished reading the green, you have to move up to where the red is and sit here and wait for it for the rotation time. So it will take almost a full revolution to read those two, right? So it happens reasonably fast. So it's gone. See, it's already finished reading. Now it's going to read the red down to the green and finished. Now it's going to go and try the green first. Wait, and move and read the red. And therefore, from the position of the tracks, well, the sectors, you can actually tell which one is better to read, and they can work it out very easily. And that way we can save rotation time. But you won't have to worry about it. You know the general idea, you understand it. But what we are worried about and what you need to know is the seek time. What time is it? Are we finished?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna